We just have 1 more minute, then we start. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining, and also like people will still continue joining. Just seeing emails here on how to join. We are trying to fix that for other people as well, but we are still going to continue as scheduled with our webinar, and other people will find us along the way. So thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. It's such an important webinar for us at Be Well and Green Network. I am the facilitator, Tamara Kahudia, and I'm going to be joined by Bridget as well, and they're half of our conversation. And for me, as Tamara Kahudia, I'm also the founder of Be Well and Great Network, and also work together with Bridget in holding of our webinars together. So this webinar is very special for us because we are having the conversation about healing minds and healing earth, where we are fostering mental health resilience in climate change webinar. And this is such an important opportunity just for us to be able to share what we love here at Be Well and Great Network. So after that, just about Healing Minds and Healing Earth campaign. Healing Minds and Healing Earth campaign is a campaign that we started last year in October during when we were celebrating World Mental Health Day. It was such a special moment for us just to bring the connection of mental wellness and climate change. And it mostly came from my own experience as the founder of the Well and Green Network, on how, as a climate activist, I got consumed by how environmental changes were affecting my mental well-being, and which led to me suffering from depression and anxiety. And this is the reason why we created Be Well and Green Network, a space where like young people, any one of us here, can feel a safe space where you're learning, engaging, and you're making friends as well. So as I repeat, our facilitator is Bridget Keroma, and I right now I'm Tamara Kahudia. Something up the slide. Okay. So our theme, as we have talked about, our theme is on healing minds, healing earth, where we are aiming in fostering a minute. Okay, so our theme is on healing minds and healing earth, where we aim in fostering mental health resilience in climate change right now. So we also have a research that we are continuing doing, and also we announced like during our social media, like our campaign, and how we are doing a collective survey on publishing our own research paper. But also we have a concept now where in the end of the webinar, if anyone is interested, can contact us and we can share with them our final concept note. So what we realized at Buell and Green Network that the connection between climate change and mental health is such an important area in the global public health. Well, there was a lot of research that showed how extreme weather events intensified by climate change and caused two difference of mental health issues like PTSD, anxiety, and depression. I mean, we read through studies indicating, for example, during Hurricane Katrina, 20 to 35% of survivors faced mental health challenges. This webinar, we are aiming in highlighting how climate change worsen existing mental health problems and explore resilience strategies and how historical climate change discussion have focused on physical and economic impacts. But growing concerns over mental health have led to terms like eco-anxiety and eco-grief, and that is something at Be Well and Green Network we're continuing to explore. And the webinar will provide a platform for us as young advocates, community leaders, experts to discuss, to know more about the awareness of climate change and mental health link, and also sharing knowledge and the best practices. So this is, and then we also want to thank for our partners as well for this webinar as well. Battery Tour at Minds Creative Network and Voice of Change, who will talk about them after our 5 meditation session, but we'll just do it like 2 minutes because we've already done it already. And yes, and then supported mainly by our funder who are supporting us in this campaign of healing minds and healing earth. So we're gonna go and just a 2 minutes. It's supposed to be 5, but because we're trying to steal time, we're gonna do it a bit 2 minutes just to be on time and on schedule. So it was supposed to be a 5 minutes meditation, but yeah, we'll just know what happens.
To begin this mindfulness meditation, just let yourself get into a comfortable position, whatever that looks like for you. When your body feels ready, you may gently close your eyes. With your eyes closed, take a moment to tune inwards. First, simply noticing your body, tuning into the weight of gravity, the points of contact between you and the surface on which you are resting. What else do you notice? What is it like for you to be in your body right now? As you observe this, you simply accept and allow whatever it is you notice, harboring no judgment, just being mindful, noticing what is with a sense of compassion in your heart and letting it be. Continue to do this now with your breath as well as your body. If you haven't already, begin to tune into the sensations of breathing. What do you notice? Just observe, accept, and allow. No judgment, just letting everything be how it is. As you stay mindful of your breath and your body,
Thank you everyone for just a time for like meditation, a time for us collecting our thoughts and everything else. So before I welcome our guest speaker, and I just want to confirm that he's around, that's Jay, Christine. So I'm just gonna describe to everyone who we are if you knew and you don't know us. So Be Well and Grey Network is a youth-led nonprofit organization that is based here in Nairobi, Kenya. And we work across 5 pillars, and that's an environmental sustainability, mental health, agriculture, substance abuse, and gender equality. And at Be Well, we created a space where young people felt heard, seen, listened, and had the opportunity to grow in terms of career, in terms of mindset, and in terms of just being an old person. So Build and Green Network was created last year in June. So we're still a baby, but we're still growing and still trying to be in every place that we can be. Currently, BUL and Green Network has a database of over 10,000 young people who have registered to wanting to be part of this amazing movement, where we have 90% of BUL and Green Network that is being led by young people, with the other percentage is young adults who keep on supporting the work that we do. So this is such an amazing time for us at BUL and Green Network to hold this amazing special webinar as we keep on pushing for our campaign, Healing Minds and Healing Earth, and how we are connecting our mental well-being to climate change. After that, I'm going to welcome our guest speaker. I mean, the slides are kind of being slow, but okay. So our first speaker is Christiana Jacobs, and I don't know if he's around because I'm not seeing. I don't. Yeah, I see him. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm gonna introduce you. But Christian Jacob is a licensed marriage and family therapist with over 20 years of experience, dedicated to advancing emotional health and resilience across individuals and communities. He holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in adult and child psychology from St. Mary's College of California. His work centers on the intersection of race-based trauma, stress, holistic well-being, and nervous system regulation, with experience spanning clinical, community, and public health settings. Christian currently serves as an administrator supporting system-wide mental health and well-being efforts at the University of California Office of the President. He also leads a private therapy practice and consulting group serving diverse communities with a strong focus on supporting Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Through his work, he equips individuals with practical tools to understand how stress is held in the body and to cultivate calm, clarity, and emotional balance. We are truly privileged to have him join us, especially as a special guest, contributing his expertise to the important conversation on healing minds and strengthening resilience. Now the floor is yours. 10 minutes. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, and I appreciate the invitation to come and speak from Be Well and Green Network. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Jacobs, and today I'll just be coming to you to talk a little bit about the combination and impact and the relationship between mental health and the environment. I just wanted to start just by sharing. I live here in California, here in America, and I just want to first notice and brings the attention, recognizing the obvious differences there are in mental health and the environment based on where we all live in different places, which is really important. Our environments are really important when it comes to our health and our well-being. So what I'll do is I'll just talk a little bit about the health and the environment for a bit, and I'll save about maybe 2 minutes towards the end of my presentation for questions or discussion. Any question you want to ask. So basically, my background really is related to it. We kind of talked about it in my bio, but just really as an expert, a subject matter expert in the mental health field in several areas related to individuals and families. A lot of the work that I do is working with African American families and different families of color, even outside of the African American community. And there's a need here for that because most of the mental health therapists or clinicians or doctors, that it's a 1% in terms of how many are African American. Alone, that's already different than a place maybe in a different country. Because, like for example, in Africa, you may have doctors, and many of them may be African or they may be Black descent and things of that sort. But here in America, we see something that's opposite. It's really a lack of Black therapists and doctors, things of that sort. So when I walk into a doctor's office here, it's really rare that I'm going to see someone who looks like me. So that's the reason why I got into the work that I do, is to represent and to support my people who don't look like me. So I just want to talk about that. So when we talk about climate change, we usually think about the environment, right? But we don't always talk about what it's doing to our minds. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now, especially constant exposure to like crisis narratives, feeling overwhelmed or powerless and things like that. But the climate crisis is not just environmental, it's psychological. So when we see environmental things happening, it's not only affecting our emotional state, but also our physical state. I also want to bring it to your attention how important the your environment is when it comes to your healing. The number one factor when it comes to mental health in terms of healing is your environment. So grounding, right? So the air that you breathe, and it's called social determinants of health. And in the University of California, where I work, I do a lot of my work there is really overseeing mental health programs on university campuses. And University of California is the number one public school in the world. So you have University of California, Los Angeles, University of California, Berkeley. These places like UCLA, these schools are number one public schools. And so the reason why is because of the research back behind all the research that goes into the work and things of that sort. So a lot of this information is research based. And also, I just want to say that the economy is, there's like eco anxiety. So there's something called eco anxiety, ECO anxiety. And that means chronic fear or worry about environmental collapse. It's not a disorder, but it's just a condition of things that happen, but a real response to real conditions. What does that look like? Persistent worry about the future, feeling helpless or stuck, guilt, emotional fatigue. And then we normalize, if you feel overwhelmed by what's happening in the world, right? Does that mean something is wrong with you? It means you're paying attention. So beyond that, we have climate grief, right? Loss of safety and predictability. If you're losing, your power often, you're losing a sense of safety. That's your environment, right? If the water dries up in a place where you get water, that water is a sense of livelihood. That can cause anxiety. So now, as you see, those are a couple of examples of how your environment really drives your mental health. And why does this matter? So without support, people tend to shut down, avoid the topic, become emotionally numb, things like that. And as I'm talking, I want just a couple people just to think of a couple questions they may have. Anything related to mental health and the economy, how they relate. So at the end, you can just raise your hand. We can call on you. You can come on the microphone and ask a question, or you can type it in the chat, and we can talk about that. So yeah, those are some of the areas where the economy and mental health matters. Also, the emotional resilience part. So it's not about, there's a lot of ways where emotional resilience, is really the shift about not ignoring stress, but learning how to stay present in the middle. So what does resilience look like? Resilience is really important because um, for groups who are really underprivileged, who are under stress or in poverty. For example, for me in America, for example, being an African American man, by statistically, I'm supposed to be quote underprivileged or under resourced. Many of the folks who are black and brown, that's where you see, like for example, in college or in schools, there may not be money to go to see a therapist. There may not be money to do these things for individuals who are African American, Latino, of heritage, and things of that sort. So those are statistically that's how it's supposed to look. So what does that look like? So staying engaged, being able to understand what is resilience. So when you're someone who doesn't have already, how do you stay resilient and continue to go for the things you're looking for in life for someone who may already have things in their life that are great. So the core thing here I'm saying is healing minds enables climate action. So you want to expand. You cannot solve global problems from a dysregulated state. So the number one key to this is staying regulated, having a regulated nervous system. How do we have a regulated nervous system? What does that mean? What does that look like to have a regulated nervous system, right? And how do we do that? If we don't have certain things that the environment is supposed to produce, for example, if we're relying on the environment to produce tomatoes and potatoes and our animals to be healthy to produce eggs and milk and things like that. If that goes away, or if something happens, if there's famine or if there's a virus, just imagine how can that affect a family or someone who relies on that daily to eat, and that causes stress and anxiety and maybe depression. So these are some examples of how the system around you is so much so supported on that. And I just want to say this here is some of the key elements to healing in mental health uses the environment. So for example, a lot of things I prescribe, just like a doctor would, just like medication, I prescribe to a patient or to a client. When you're depressed, I need you to sit in the sun and sunbathe for maybe 15 minutes. Why do you do that? Well, the sun rays produces dopamine in the brain, which contributes to being happy and creates those happy hormones. So that's just an example of why the environment is so important. And I just want you to, I know we have a couple minutes left, so I want to leave a couple minutes for any discussion, any reflection. So I just want you to remember this, that you don't have to carry the weight of the world, but do need to stay well enough to be a part of its healing. So learning how to use the world and your environment to help your mental health and well-being. So those are a couple of tips I wanted to share with you. I appreciate you listening to this presentation delivery. And at this point in time, we can open it up if there's any questions or comments or expressions or ideas. And you can take any question that you like to and bring that up.
Does anyone have a question to ask? If not, maybe I have a question to ask, something that in terms of how you're speaking about resilience. So in your own perspective, how do people stay resilient when they lack the basic resources? Especially because we see therapy is expensive in Africa, here in Kenya, therapy is expensive. So how can we as young people, or any other person, continue being resilient when there's the lack of basic resources?
And the beautiful thing about that is in Kenya, in Africa, you have the beauty of environments of space, right? I'll give you, for example, in America, we're constricted to having backyards. So when we go in our homes, when we look out in the back of our home, we have a fenced in place, and it's usually pretty small, of how much space we can have to sit in our house, outside, and relax. In Kenya and these places in Africa, you have the beauty of animals and fresh fruit. and fruit that grows naturally and organically without chemicals and pesticides that we use here in America, and things of that sort. And that's important to take advantage of those things, of knowing when you feel depressed, there's some biological things you can do regardless of how much money you have. For example, when you're stressed, nature and the air is helpful for your brain. So getting outside in the sun, that's one thing that could be used that doesn't cost any money. The second is breathing techniques. And if we ever have time, we can do some of those. Learn how to breathe and calm your nervous system down. And also, positive self-talk is really important. This is something that a therapist would do with you. So when you're being negative and having negative thoughts about not living or not having positive self-talk to yourself is important. I give you an example, saying to yourself, I am. I am positive. I am resilient. I am strong. I am smart. I am special. I am fully resourced. And even though you may not have those in that moment, your brain, when you talk to yourself like that, it creates new pathways in your brain to make you feel that way. That's why sometimes when you constantly talk negative, you start to believe it. It's because your brain believes what you start to tell it. So if you start telling yourself these things, you can start creating a healthy, well-being way of thinking and talking to yourself. So that's just one way of doing it. If you don't have money to spend on a therapist, positive self-talk, utilizing your environment, the beauty of your environments that you may have, in the space and the natural things that are hard to come by in America, such as, lush trees and things like that. And also just learn how to use your community and using, whether that's religion, your belief, in terms of staying positive and using your community to support you in these things. Finding other people who are experiencing the same thing you're experiencing and grouping together and talking about them and healing spaces and things like that is something that could be used in the space of therapy.
Thank you so much, Christiana. I don't know if anyone has a question, but if anyone has a question, you can just write it in the chat. When we have like our live Q&A, we can still ask you, but I'm seeing somebody. Okay, there's a question, and somebody said, hi, how about the intrusive thoughts that stay within, even if you're in, Okay, let me try to reframe it. So the person asked about what about the intrusive thoughts that stays within themselves, but it continues to eat them up. Yeah, that was their
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, intrusive thoughts. So intrusive thoughts are what? An intrusive thought is like a tape recorder or a recording that plays over your mind over and over. And like I give you an example, I'm stupid or I'm dumb or I'll never succeed. That's an intrusive thought. It's over and over and over. What you want to do, here's a really good technique, is you challenge those thoughts. So if whatever intrusive thought you're having, you challenge it. You say, how true is this thought? Because a lot of the times our intrusive thoughts are not true or they're inaccurate. They may be partially true, but they're inaccurate. So meaning I'm a loser or I'm stupid. In reality, that's not true. So you want to challenge those thoughts and say, how true is this thought? How accurate is this thought? Start questioning those thoughts. Don't just start believing what you hear. Question them. Why am I thinking this way? Why am I feeling this way? Am I tired? Am I hungry? Do I need exercise? So challenge those intrusive thoughts. That's the first thing you can do. And the second thing you can do when you're having those kind of thoughts is understand, you can start to replace those negative thoughts. So you challenge the thought, where's it coming from? And then you start to replace them with, I know that this thought is not true because, and then you start talking your positive self-talk. You start to talk positively, I have the ability to, I am better than. And then one thing that helps with intrusive thoughts is, here's another technique too, is humming is helpful to the brain. So when you're feeling nervous or anxiety, humming, literally humming, what it does, it cuts your brain can't think and have these negative pathways and hum at the same time. That's why you see people when they meditate, they hum. That's why they do that, because the brain is unable to do both of those at the same time. So that's when you want to calm yourself down. That's when it's really extreme. So that's one. Those are just a couple ways to help you, just based on the questions that you asked.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope the person who asked the question, I don't even want me to mention your name, but I won't mention your name because you sent it privately to me. But I hope you can your answer, like your question has been answered. And thank you so much, Christina Jacobs, for having you here and just being our amazing guest speaker. And I really have learned a lot. And I hope everyone who is joining us through like the Zoom or on YouTube or Facebook is getting to understand more about our campaign and how we are really bringing the connection of emotional health and ES. So thank you so much. And now I'm going to go to like our panel discussion. Yes. So thank you so much. And now we're going to our next segment. So for our next segment is our panel discussion. And in our panel discussion, it is being represented by different partners for this webinar. And I'm just gonna say truly thankful to just our partners for being able to like join us in this discussion. At Biwali Green Network, we believe that a collective action is an empire. And this is why we ensured that our webinar, we had so many just collaboration together. So our next speaker is Tex Wambui, representing the Voice of Change. And I'm so grateful that we're having you as a speaker. He is a climate justice practitioner, writer, facilitator, working the intersection of community-led design, policy, and storytelling. He is the founder and executive director of Force of Change Youth Empowerment, a platform supporting young people to translate lived experience into climate action rooted in equity, place, and accountability. He holds a bachelor's degree in economics and history from the University of California and a master's in public administration from Clark Atlanta University. His work spans research, facilitation, and advocacy, from leading a quantitative analysis on EV infrastructure and transportation mobility to guiding youth and community leaders through climate project design and system thinking. He is a 2025 Young Climate Leader of Color, Fellow, and an E2 Hotel Fellow, where he worked at the intersection of climate equity, applied research, and project planning. Beyond facilitation, Tex is a publisher, author of The Comeback, A Tale of Love, Resilience, and Redemption, and the host of the Voice of Change podcast, where he explores climate culture and community through conversation and narrative. He's very fluent in Swahili, deeply curious about how people move through systems, and committed to creating learning spaces where care and imagination coexist. Thank you so much, Taksubwe, for being our amazing speaker as well. Funny thing about Tax is that we are in a group together that we're being supported, and it was really amazing to come together and collaborate for this. I mean, collaboration is always important. So I welcome you as you introduce who you are, your organization, and how it aligns to our theme for healing minds and healing earth. It's now your time to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. And also thank you, Christian, for that wonderful discussion. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning or good evening from where you're listening from. So my name is Tex Wambui, and I'm part of the lead with the Voices of Change. And I think one of my other team members is also here, Hussein Wayaki. I don't know if he's here. If he's here, please say hello. Where we focus on environmental awareness, storytelling, and community engagement, particularly in Limuru, Kenya. And I'm really grateful to be part of this conversation because I think what we're discussing today is something that many people feel but don't always have the language or, space to express. So when we talk about climate change, we often think things like data, emissions, policies, and infrastructure. But on the ground, especially in communities like Limuru, where we do a lot of our work with the Voice of Change and also in Rironi, what people are actually experiencing goes beyond that. It's the feeling of watching your environment change. It's uncertainty about the future. It's the quiet stress that comes with seeing things not being taken care of once the way they once were. And sometimes it's even a loss of connection to like land, to history, and to the community. And some of the things we've done is through the Mongol wetland restoration. That was our flagship pilot project that we were doing specifically to restore and develop a community sensitization on understanding the importance of Mongol and it's a water reservoir and the aspect animals who rely on that specific area as well as the people in that area. So while climate change is often discussed as a global issue, it is also deeply personal, and that's where mental health comes in. There's a growing recognition of terms like eco-anxiety, just as Christian mentioned, environmental grief, and climate fatigue. But even without those terms, what we're seeing is that people are carrying emotional and psychological weight connected to their environment. When communities feel disconnected from their surroundings or feel like they have no control over what's happening, it affects their sense of stability, belonging, even hope. And to kind of pinpoint on the aspect of when we started with the Mongol wetlands restoration, one of the first things that we needed to do was just have an understanding what the community needed and how they perceived their environment so we can be able to better serve to their needs. And for young people especially, some of those things can be confusing when you don't understand the land and the history or where you're at and how it's affected who you are. Because sometimes they're being told to, you're being told to care about the environment, but you don't know how to approach it, how to care about it. But often they don't feel like they have a real role in shaping it. So the question becomes, how do we move from awareness to connection and action? So for us, with the Voice of Change, the answer has kind of been about just creating this space and creating the knit groups and communities that allow us to actually get the voices of people who care about this so they can facilitate that conversation within their own households, for themselves, and stand up and actually be a voice of change for their livelihood and also for their environment. So through the Voice of Change, we've been intentional about building community-centered spaces where people can come together, not just to talk about environmental issues, but to reflect, share, and reconnect. And we've seen that when people are given the opportunity to tell their stories, to listen to others, and to engage with their environment in a meaningful way, something shifts and it become less about abstract problems and more about the shared responsibility. So that's actually what's actually leading us as well as a partnership with Be Well Green Network is that we're having an upcoming community gathering as well. We'd like to invite everybody as well who's on here. On May 23rd, 2026, we'll be hosting a full day convening at St. Paul's University in Limuru called Restoring Joy, Awareness, Community, and Environmental Stewardship. And this event will be designed to bring people together, students, community members, and local leaders into one space to have real conversations about the environment, well-being, and responsibility. And our goal is to actually get their voices heard because a lot of people sometimes they feel like their voice is suppressed, which goes back to their aspect of how they feel about themselves. And during that session, we'll actually have Christian Jacobs too as one of our speakers on that event. We'll have sessions on environmental awareness, mental health, and a well-being discussion on youth storytelling, panel focused on community leadership and action, and also probably participate in a community cleanup towards what our flagship started at Mongol wetland. So what makes this important is that it's not just about learning, it's about the connection. We want people to leave, feeling more aware, more grounded, and taking the lessons and knowledge to be able to bring it back into their homes so they can inspire the next generation and also be more connected to their role within their community. So I guess one thing we've come to understand as Voice of Change is that you cannot separate environmental healing from human healing. So if people feel disconnected, overwhelmed, or unheard, it becomes very difficult for them to engage meaningfully with the environmental work, as well as how it pertains to their own healing for themselves. So when people feel seen, connected, and part of something, they begin to take that ownership. And that is kind of where we've come in. And we want people to take that sense of responsibility and that's where we think that real change starts. So I would like to invite everybody. I can put, I guess, our link in the chat of where people can sign up to be part of our event. That will be happening on May 23rd, and we will be more than glad to accommodate everybody. I think, am I allowed, am I able to type in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, I will drop our sign up link in the chat. Um, we haven't published our flyer yet, but once people who sign up, you will see our flyer and everything like that. So if you're in Kenya, especially around the Limuru and the surrounding areas, I would really encourage you to join us on May 23rd so we can continue this conversation as we're doing it and having it right now. And even if you're not physically there, I think the bigger invitation is to start thinking about how we can create those kinds of spaces wherever we are. So at the end of the day, I guess the one thing I can leave with y'all is that, the work is not just about the environment. It's about the people and the connection, and it's about the communities we choose to build, because those are the things that allow us to actually heal internally to impact the external aspects within our community. So appreciate for giving me the time and the floor. And if anybody has questions for me, feel free to shoot at me. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Taxumbe. And it's really amazing to having Force of Change being part of our partner. And also we as well cannot wait to also be there, because Be Well and Green Network will be there during the 23rd of May. And also we've been sending it to our WhatsApp group as well. And if anyone is interested, you can still email us here at Be Well and Green Network, and we'll send you always. So thank you so much. I don't know if anyone has a question. Let me see, click in the chat. So no one has a question, but maybe what I can ask is, what will change if more people felt that their voices truly mattered in conversations about environment? In your own perspective, what do you think will change if more people felt that their voices truly mattered in conversations about environment? Because when I built, for example, when I was building Build and Green Network, there's a point I felt like my voice never mattered, or a place where people are diminishing my voice. So anyone who is just here, what can you tell them?
I think that one thing that that does change is that it does allow us to develop a collective responsibility, because one input cannot be the change of everything, but collective inputs create a bigger output for the community that it represents. So that's the biggest thing I can say, is that when we have multiple voices who want to be part of change, it allows us to have a collective responsibility and a shared understanding. Because if there's not really an understanding within different voices, that there's really no way to kind of accomplish a collective goal. So I think the biggest thing is that when you have different voices and people want to be part of that change, is to actually understand the collective objective and the collective shared responsibility of how we can actually get to the goal that we want to get to.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm seeing somebody in the chat asking, do we have a WhatsApp group? And I'd really like to be connected. You can reach us to us back, and I can send you maybe for Be Well and Green Network. And also I will talk with Taxumbe to also share their link for being part of the organization as well, and to contribute to the greater good for the community. I'm seeing a question from Lucy Bai, and she asks, how do you feel? Would you kindly okay, maybe the question is, how do you feel about failure? Maybe that's the question. Wait, I'm seeing more
I would
about
say,
failure and which habits create a long-term problems, I think, yeah. Which habits create long-term problems? So how do you feel about failure, and which habits create long-term problems?
I would actually also like Christian to chime in on this, but to kind of address that, I think the way I feel about failure, and I think the way Voice of Change as well as a team we feel about failure, is that it's necessary. It's part of the process. That's all I can say about that. In terms of the habits that create long-term problems, I'm not really sure what that question means. Christian, if you
Thinking
have
about
anything
too,
to
yeah.
add
Yeah, I
on.
can jump in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think yeah, thanks Tex for chiming in. Yeah, I think Tex is right when it comes to the how do you feel about failure? It's about understanding and accepting that failure is necessary for success. A lot of the times what we do is we try to make ourselves feel bad for failing something. And there's something that we say here when it comes to sports. And Michael Jordan, famous basketball player, he said that, you know, uh, you miss 100% of the shots that you do not take, right? So you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, meaning that, you know, if you don't try, you're failing by 100%. So you have to try. So failure is normal. What isn't normal is how we handle failure and how we perceive failure. So if you start to accept failure as a necessity to grow and learn and reframe that thought of what the failure being bad, that's when things start to change, right? In terms of your mindset. So that's where it starts. The mindset of seeing failure as necessary and also something and evaluating why failure is happening. The second part, when it comes to which habits create long-term problems, this is kind of what I talked about before, is like the negative view set. So your negative mindset. So what habits create long-term problems is negative thinking. That's probably the number one source of creating long-term problems. Negative thinking about yourself, who you are, the environment, your progress, life, constantly over and over. And yes, it is possible that we all have things that happen in our lives that are negative. That is true. However, that goes back to the resilience part of what can I do next to improve myself or the situation is a question you want to ask yourself. So that habit creates long-term problems. Negative thinking, not utilizing your environment for healing, and what else creates long-term problems is not utilizing community, using the community that you have in a religious space that you may have or a spiritual space for healing and understanding. To overcome those things, there's some things that can create long-term problems. I hope that answered your question.
You're muted.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Christine, for answering the question. And I hope like Madam Lucy has gotten their response. So because due to time, I need to now go to the next individual. And also text Umboy has also shared about the Instagram page, and you guys can go and check it out as well. So thank you so much for joining us and just representing Voice of Change, and we can't wait to continue exploring more with Be Well and Great Network. So our next speaker is, I don't know if Claire would like to share her like, do you wanna do video? No, I don't know. So okay. So we have our next speaker. And I'm super excited. So Claire Nyakoremo is proudly representing the Be Well and Great Network. She's a mental health advocate, author of Where Cages Are Made of Glass, and an emerging researcher at CUEA, which is Catholic University. Claire is advancing critical conversations at the intersection of mental health and climate change. Her work centers the lived experience of young people, exploring how stress, anxiety, and environmental changes shape learning, resilience, and community well-being. With a strong human-centered approach, she continues to amplify youth voices and champion spaces for healing awareness and collective action towards a more sustainable and mental healthy future. Claire, this is the floor is all yours now.
Thank you, Tamara. I think I'll just talk through. I won't do a video. I won't start a video and all it. If that's okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay. Yes, my name is Claire Nyakorema. I'm a member of Be Well and Green Network. I joined the community, the organization earlier this year, and so far I'm really grateful to be a part of this community because it has given me an opportunity to learn, grow, and engage more. Up to now, I've learned a lot from you, plus Tex and Christopher, and I've been able to connect deeply between the connection between mental well-being and the environmental sustainability. Also, for my research, I'm emerging because I'm a finalist. I'm an educational finalist at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. So this is just my research is just a proposal, and at the heart of my work is a simple idea that we cannot separate the health of people from the health of the planet. So, as a member of the network, I've seen that our work supports mental health by creating safe spaces for sharing, building emotional resilience, strengthening community and connection. We also acknowledge the growing impact of eco and related stress, especially among young people. We intentionally create spaces where these feelings can be expressed and addressed. So climate change is often, when you just hear the word climate change, it's often discussed in terms of flood, drought, and the rising temperatures. But climate change is more than just the physical aspect. Climate change is also emotional, and that shows the mental effects it may have on an individual. Also, my work focuses on helping communities understand that healing the earth must go hand in hand with healing the minds of the people living in it. So when you talk about healing the earth, we must also talk about the emotional burden that comes with caring about it, caring about healing the earth. Then the what makes Be Well and Green Network powerful is that it's able to align with the Healing Minds Healing campaign, which entails the strong link between mental and health climate action. So through this campaign, we've deepened our understanding of collective healing, which supports stronger climate response, and how caring for our mental well-being strengthens our ability to care for the planet. Also, at Be Well and Green Network, we've participated in initiatives such as community dialogues, sessions, and nature-based activities that bring people together. So through these efforts, we've seen how individuals become mindful of both their mental health and the environment and the environmental impact. Many participants leave feeling more connected, supported, and motivated to take action. So, for instance, after engaging in guided conversations around climate fears, some participants, after all that, I think that it is the eco anxiety. Some participants shift from feeling helpless to initiating small but meaningful actions like tree planting and community cleanups. Then through storytelling, my work is just storytelling, the workshops and safe spaces. I've seen young people move from silence and over and the feeling of overwhelmness, and now they're able to express actions more clearly. Then so one key lesson that stands out is that people need to feel heard before they can act. Then also, challenges that faces many people, many young people, is that one of the biggest challenges is that many people still do not recognize climate change as a mental health issue. So there's limited awareness. Then there's also strong stigma. Young people all feel they cannot openly express their anxiety or distress. And within the climate work itself, burnout is becoming increasingly common, especially among the youth who feel a constant sense of urgency. Then the young people are navigating both activism and anxiety. Supporting them means allowing space for rest, emotional expression, and shared responsibility. So we must, for this to be effective, we must move away from the idea that young people must carry the burden alone and instead build systems of collective care. Now, collaboration comes in, and by working together, we can create more inclusive and effective solutions that address both human well-being and environmental sustainability. We believe there's great potential in strengthening collaboration between mental health professions and environmental organization and community groups. Because lasting solutions will only come when we treat environmental and psychological well-being as interconnected. Addressing these issues require collaboration across sectors, mental health professionals, climate organizations, educators, and policymakers. Then I would like to encourage everyone to take a moment to take care for both themselves and the environment, whether that's spending time in nature, checking in on your mental well-being, or taking one small action to protect the planet. So I can invite everyone to take one simple step. This is by creating space within yourself and others to talk about how climate change makes you feel, because awareness is where resilience begins. So for my closing reflection, I'll just say that healing our minds and healing our planet go hand in hand. And when we prioritize mental well-being, we build stronger, more resilient communities that are better equipped to respond to climate challenges. Together, through care, connection, and action, we can create a healthier future for both people and the climate. That's all. That's all I have to say as member of Greenwell. So my closing remarks. So the health of our planet and the health of our minds are deeply connected. If we want sustainable solutions, we must build resilient people. Because in the end, healing minds is healing us, and healing us is healing the earth. That's all. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Claire, for representing Be Well and Green Network. It really means a lot to each one of us, and you well represented us amazingly. Yes, healing minds and healing earth is all about connecting our own well-being with climate change and how we're connecting with planting a tree, hugging a tree, going for walks, and everything else. So I don't know if anyone has a question. Does anyone have a question? I don't know if anyone has a question. You can write it in the chat because I'm also trying to maintain time right now. So I'm trying to be now kind of quick on my end as well. So thank you so much, Claire, for being such an amazing representer. And we can't wait for Be Well and Green Network to continue championing for healing minds and healing earth, and how important it is for connecting our own well-being with the environment, and especially we as the young people. So I'm going to go to last speakers, and I can see him right now. So thank you so much. So we have JC David. He is the African coordinator for Bachi Tour, the world's longest running clean energy powered concert series, where music meets sustainability to drive real world impact. A sustainable musician, climate activist, and creative changemaker. JC uses the power of music and storytelling to inspire action around climate justice, renewable energy, and community empowerment across Africa. Through his work with Bachchan Music for Impact movement, Jesse helps lead initiatives that fuse live performance, advocacy, and grassroots engagement to mobilize young people and communities towards sustainable development. His artistic and activism sits at the intersection of entertainment and environmental consciousness, positioning him as a leading voice in Africa, growing movement for creative climate advocacy. Passionate about transforming stages into platforms for change, Jesse believes music is more than entertainment. It's a catalyst for awareness, unity, and action in building a more sustainable future. Thank you so much, Jesse, for joining us and representing Bachitua. And it's such an amazing opportunity for BYL and Green Network to partner with you guys. And we can't wait to also partner in person as well. We'll be having a sneak peek of something is going to happen in our in-person session. But thank you so much, Jesse, and the floor is all yours.
Wow, thank you very much for the organization, for BYL and Green Network for organizing this webinar, and also for the theme that that we have for healing minds and healing earth that really cuts across the conversation of mental well-being. And in addition to that, the speakers that that have gone before me, from Christian to Tex to Claire, really profound knowledge, on how we can continue championing for a better world, and also understanding that our mental health plays a very critical aspect when it comes to driving impact. Just like what Christian said, that we need to be well enough to be part of the healing, and that is one of my takeaways. Yeah. So as you've heard, Jesse David, the coordinator of Battery Tour Africa. Battery Tour is the longest running clean energy concert series in the world, and is based in the US, but we've extended. Currently, we're also here in Africa. The main thing that we do is powering concert and creative places with clean energy, and also champion for creating music that has meaning. One of our main aspects and pillar is music for impact, understanding that music, we all know, is a universal language, and getting to align music with a certain cause, with a certain impactful direction, it really brings change in the community. And in addition to that, I like to take this angle. If right now, for those who are listening, if you can close your eyes, like the way the founder of BYL and Green Network was saying, the meditation aspect. But this time round, just imagine that you're zooming out. You have closed your eyes and you're zooming out. You can see yourself. Imagine you close your eyes. When you zoom out again, you can see maybe the building. When you zoom out again, you can see a couple of buildings around the road. Zoom out again, you can see maybe that forest around you. You zoom out again and again. And when you're seeing now the structure of, for example, the earth itself, you realize it looks artistic from my point of view. So that shows us that if the world itself, the earth itself is a planet, it looks like someone drew how it looks like, then most of the solutions that we need as a people, ought to be driven from a creative perspective. And that is why one of the things that we've been championing for in Battery Tour, we are currently working on the first album on earth to be created about the 17 SDGs, and in all these SDGs, we are looking at there's been partnership with a global artist when it comes to creating of these songs with our founder Ewa Young and various creatives around the continent, and also partnering with an organization that cares about that individual goal, and the main aspect of it is to show how impactful and how powerful the art is, that at the wheel of the SDG, the SDG wheel at the center is for creatives, because we get to connect all these aspects, of the sustainable development goals and impact that we're driving. We get to connect them from a creative point of view, and that's how we drive impact. So at Battery Tour, what we've been working on from an African point of view, also the initiatives that we've been having. Last year we had the launch of Battery Tour Africa in Malawi. We had a couple of concerts, clean energy powered concerts in the refugee camps. The biggest was at Zaleka refugee camp. And one of our ways that we drive impact is to enable is when a concert is happening, for example, in the US or somewhere, the proceeds from the concert, we have connected with the implementing organization at the grassroots level that we can get the proceeds from this concert and now be attached to a cause. If it's a community that doesn't have access to clean energy, we're looking at how can they have access to clean energy. How can we use the proceeds from the concert now to make sure that community have access to clean energy. If it's wash, like one of our partners, Freshwater International, we had an amazing engagement with them where concerts were happening, and the proceeds from the concert were being taken to drive impact at the community level to make sure that community have access to water, which is one backbone for life. Yeah, so about healing minds, and healing the earth. Music plays a very critical role when it comes to our mental health, and being a creative and understanding the impact of music. Most of us, we love music. We love zoning out to music when we feel low, when we feel something is not right. And after that, we feel connected. But all that goes back to nature, because as our fellow speakers have said, that aligning ourselves will bring healing to us. And for creatives too, where do we tap the energy? Where do we tap the source to be creative? It's all from nature. And the question that I've been asking myself when you're talking about healing minds and healing the earth is, what does healing look like for our people? What does healing look like in the midst of climate injustice that have been happening in the continent, that has been happening in Africa, talking about the climate injustices? Healing is first accepting that wrong has been done and how can we fix it, and I like to touch on, I think most people might have heard of kintsugi, the repairing, of a broken pottery, the Japanese art repairing of broken pottery with gold, where it shows us that we ought to embrace brokenness, rather than the downfall. And here is where now the creative power comes in, where we embrace the brokenness, and come out of the other side looking even much better. Most of these pottery pieces, when people look at them, they're pleasing. And that is the mentality that we ought to have, that as much as there's been climate injustice that is causing anxiety, that is affecting people, how can we, as creatives, we come in to not only create awareness, because I was challenged by a friend of mine being a climate activist earlier, and I was like, we are calling for justice, we want change. But he was like, okay, you're creating awareness, and then what next? What next after creating awareness? Action is the most important thing that we've been seeing from the partnership, from the amazing work that Be Well and Green Network are doing, and bringing people together, bringing conversations, and also aligning them with the real impact that is happening, to make sure that we are well aligned, we know what is happening, so that when you go out there to take action, to call people to drive change, we're doing it from an informed perspective. And nature is our number one therapist. We were talking about therapy, and Christian touched on it, where telling people, how can you connect with nature when you're feeling depressed? How can you tap into the energy from nature itself? And I think that is one of the greatest ways of healing, and even for us I was advising a friend of mine. We were battling creating block where we are like on the same cycle, and we asked ourselves, when was the last time we went for a nature walk and connected with nature from an individual perspective, and just allowed ourselves to tap into the healing power, to tap into the awesomeness from nature as a healing, and to boost our creativity. So it goes a long way, and it's a very, very important conversation that we are having. And for me, it's and for Battery Tour, music is impact right there, and that is what we are touching. And we have a term that we've been using in most of our campaigns and activations and engagements, is that we are all outlets of change. We are all outlets when it comes to what we do, and how can you be an outlet of change? What we're all doing, what Be Well and Green Initiative is championing for, what Battery Tour is championing for, what all the organizations that are partners are championing for, is people coming together. And for us at Battery Tour is using our creativity, using your talent, using your gift, using any aspect of how you feel impactful, joined together is a term we call plugging in. So how can we plug in together and make sure that we drive impactful change through our talents, through our creative energy, through our interest? There are people who are gifted when it comes to policy engagement, when it comes to their talent, they can use their art, when it comes to innovations. All of us coming together is impact right there, because all of us play different things, but at the end of the day, we are channeling impact in a certain way, and the earth needs us. So just to crown it all, is that you're an outlet of change, you have what it takes to drive impact, and we need community. And that is what most of these initiatives that we have are for: creating community, to join together, to drive impact, to align, to heal. And that is how we can heal the earth once we've already healed. Thank you. And that has been my time, Jesse David. In case of any questions, I'm open for that.
Oh, thank you so much, Jesse David. I mean, you've blown the room away, and I'm super just happy for having you guys, Bachicha, with us. And you just did an amazing presentation, and just very direct, insightful, it's deep, and there's a deep reflection that I have reflected a lot about. I don't know if anyone has a question before we go to our next speaker. But I maybe can ask a question, because I know you're a sustainable musician as well. So for my question is, how intentional are you about using music as a tool for impact versus just expressing yourself like creatively? I'll just repeat.
Yeah, kindly.
Okay, so my question is, how intentional are you about using your music as a tool for impact, especially because you guys are doing music for impact, you're a sustainable musician, versus just expressing yourself creatively. So how are you using it as an impact versus just expressing it yourself creatively?
I think from a creative point of view, sometimes when I take the or studio recording or anything, or creating music per se, sometimes we don't think of, I want this to be cool, or I want this. But after we have already created is when you're like, wow, so this speaks to this, so this fits to this. So the music for impact itself is like a framework of how we do our things as creatives who are in the sustainable movement. And I think sometimes we might have that. For example, we have a theme that I'm writing a song about mental health for a certain campaign. I'm writing a song about Be Well, about healing minds and healing earth campaign, and I want it to be part of this campaign. So that one will be intentional for that. But when creating, creative freedom is sometimes you create and then you realize, oh, so this was, I'm talking about what I'd gone through, about maybe mentally, and now it's connecting to people. But most of the times we try to channel to understand. For example, we've been working on an album for 17 SDGs and partnering with various corporations that align with this SDG. We look at what is the impact of like working on goal 3 or goal 6 or goal 7, and how can we make it impactful by making people know about it and take action.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jess. You really answered my question. I don't know if anyone has a question, but if anyone has like a question, if you guys want to like get to know about Bachicho, if you're following like on our social media, we tag them, we tag Voice of Change. And now next, you're going for Art Minds Creative. I mean, we believe in collaboration, and this is called Collaboration Young People. We are coming together and making an impact. And I mean, that's what we want, an impact that we, all of us, are creating. We are the leaders of tomorrow. Not the leaders of tomorrow, but we have started to become the leaders. So it is just an amazing to have Jesse from a sustainable musician perspective, and we just really love what Bachijua does. And yes, can't wait to see you guys also in our in-person event. We're announcing it next week, so we can't wait. So we're going to go to our next speaker, and his name is called Bravian. Bravian is also representing Art Minds Creative. So Bravian is a passionate public and motivational speaker dedicated to empowering minds through economic awareness and mental guidance. Through the power of art, he communicates complex ideas in a simple and engaging way, connecting with diverse audience. His work focuses on inspiring critical thinking, promoting financial consciousness, and encouraging personal growth. With a unique blend of creativity, insight, and motivation, Bravian seeks to shape more informed, resilient, and mentally aware society. So I'm welcoming Brevin to, tell us about himself, telling us about Art Minds Creative, because we attended last week event on a sip and pay, and it was so empowering, so energetic. We truly enjoyed and how we were connecting our well-being and using art to express our emotions and everything. And it was such a reviving moment for the members that we attended. Bravin, the stage is all yours, and we can't wait to hear from you. Hello. Bravian, Abednego. Bravian. Bravian. Yes, we can see you and hear you. Maybe before Bravian is able to set themselves, I can just talk about Art Minds Creative Network. So Art Minds Creative Network is just a youth movement where they believe that art meets the mind, stories that find their voices. They believe in creating a space where creativity becomes a language for emotions, unspoken complex and deeply human through expression, and where they explore healing, sparking conversation, and reminding each other that every feeling has a place and a form. So I don't know if Robin, you're having like internet connection, you can just let me know. You can text me about it. Okay. Because I'm not getting a response. We'll still continue and then we'll check up on like Bravian when he's able to like speak, but we're almost ending. So I'll just give you like maybe 5 minutes so you're able to fix, but we can still continue our webinar. So yeah, Bravian will be still waiting. You can just start when you've fixed everything. So after this, we were going to do like a panel model. Okay, I can see him. I don't know. Okay, maybe. Okay. So right now we're having like our panel moderator discussion, and this is where we really wanted to, ask questions. But I feel like we've asked our panelists questions, but we can still have that moment for them to like answer our set of questions. Okay. So how is Bravian, are you able to connect with us? We can't hear you. Maybe you can check like your settings, then come back. But before we get Bravian speaking, I just hope you can just go maybe to settings and see if there's any problem there. So I'm just gonna go through like our panel discussion just before we get our partner at Minds Creative to the speaker to speak, as we're trying to be like on schedule as well. So the first question that I'm going to ask, I don't know who I'm going to ask, but anyone can just answer. I'm just making it like an open discussion for our panelist and also our guest speaker. Okay, Bravian said a minute. So we can just have one question and somebody can answer and then we can go back to him. So this question is for like our speakers. So not for example, but how do we support young people to stay engaged without experiencing burnout? For example, I experienced the most amazing burnouts that are amazing, but I always experience burnout, especially just trying to get engaged, trying to do so many activities, and I've been learning a lot and a lot of exercise that I've been doing, a lot of just self-healing and everything. But I would really like to know, and maybe anyone from our participants as well would like to know, how do we as young people can still remain engaging without experiencing burnout? So Christine, Tex, Claire, and Jesse, the floor is open that you can you just tell us for your perspective, how do you believe? Now, you don't have to be a young person as well, but just how do we as a community stay engaging without experiencing burnout, especially with everything that is happening currently? So how can we, does anyone to answer? Yes.
Yeah, I can speak here. I think I'm having connection issues on my camera. But I think one area, that's a good question about burnout, because that's something that happens across the board and across the world, especially for people who are interested in helping others and giving to others. Burnout is very common. But I think one thing that's helpful for burnout is really learning sometimes to take time for yourself. A lot of times when we're helping people, we forget that, we have to take care of ourselves too. And I think that's the first thing that helps with burnout, is not neglecting yourself and sometimes being a little bit selfish. And when it comes to self-care, and scheduling, make sure you have scheduled time to exercise, every week or every day, scheduling time, to spend, do things that you love and you enjoy, that are fun, that is not work related, things that aren't, related to, going to work and, having the demands and the pressures of, those spaces. That's really important, and I think the next one, when it comes to work and preventing burnout, is just making sure that with work, you're doing something that brings a certain level of enjoyment, that doesn't feel like work, you know, um, and that may be finding something small within your job that you enjoy, and it's usually helping other people. So it's usually, assisting another, or doing things like that. I think that's really helpful, because that makes the day go by faster, and it also brings a sense of meaning in the work that you do. So really finding something that you enjoy within your work, and if you don't find anything you don't that you enjoy with your work, then that tells you something too. It's, that gives you an idea to maybe start exploring areas that are more interesting for you. So those are some tips for burnout. And last thing I just want to say, I want to keep going back to community. Community is very important. Using your community, your space, your circle, your tribe, to support you in those times where you're burning out. Being able to have a voice to share that with people, that, hey, I'm feeling burned out. How can you support me? Maybe someone else can step up and help out, or volunteer, or things of that sort. So those are just a few tips to help you out.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Christian. That really means a lot. I mean, I'm also gonna write that down, and I'm just gonna start practicing as well. I think, does anyone have any question? Because we can start the live question and answers after this. So does anyone have like any question? You can start popping that in the chat right now as well. And you can also, try to address who you want to ask the question. It can be a shared question, and just having this time to interact with our panelists and get to understand more of their insights, engaging with them. And yes, I don't know if Bravian.
You can get me. You can hear me. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my apologies. I had a problem with my gadgets, so I
No
just
problem.
ask for apologies.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hope we are well, doing well. I'm here on behalf of the Atman Creative Network. As you've seen, my name is Bravian Abednego. I use art as a tool for expression, as a tool for connection, and for social impact. So our association is called Atman Creative Network, a community-based organization that uses art as a powerful tool for expression, connection, and social impact. It brings together artists and young people to inspire creativity, drive positive change in both schools and the wider community. The organization runs school projects that include mentorship, art competitions. We also help students build confident creativity and self-expression. And also in the community, Atman is actively involved in giving back through initiatives such as cleaning streets and planting trees, promoting responsibility and environmental awareness. Atman Creative Network also offers organization packages where it partners with institutions for celebration, and also provides art supplies to support creative engagement. Through its events such as SIP and paint session, exhibitions, and its unique series and masking stories, it creates safe and expressive spaces for people to share experiences and connect through art. Additionally, the network supports its artists by offering mentorship, webinar, meetings, and practical guidance, building a strong and supportive creative community. Overall, Atman Creative Network is dedicated to empowering individuals and forming communities through art, mentorship, and meaningful engagement. So in matters of climate change often creates emotions that are difficult to express, like fear and grief. Art helps to emotion into something visible and shareable, a form of healing and resilience. About the healing mind, healing mind, healing mind is not about information. It's just about people having hope. It is through art where we get collective interaction, collective healing, and collective awareness. Through the art, we've met some platform where these people come and express their feelings about mental health, about climate change, and art is the only way we can express our feelings, our emotions, our grief collectively, meaning that a collective healing strengthens collective action. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So the other thing that we've done to improve the youth participation in the climate change and mental health, we've used art as a creative network that we use in form of drawing and painting. Through those paintings, we express our feelings, we express our emotions, and how we deal with it is easier for us to express through art. That is the simple work we've done. Now, the other thing that I'll have to say about mental health is that we are all human beings, and for us to understand the issue of climate change, we have to understand the human actions. The human action, we understand them through art, we draw them, we illustrate, and come up with solutions, a collective solution. My last comment is that we as people, for us to handle the issue of mental health and climate change, is that we should live a life that I may term as good life. A good life is that we as human beings, as moral agents, we have that idea, we have that responsibility, we have that burden that we should care for one another, that we should care for the environment, we should care for the others as a collective. Thank you. I think that is all. If you have any question, yeah, just ask so that we can answer. But I have a problem with my gadget. I don't know if you gotten me clearly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bravian. We have really gotten what you've said and how you've spoken about art minds and everything that you're doing in terms of expressing, using art as a tool of expressing our thoughts and etc. And that is such a powerful thing, because I just believe, like even me when I was going through my depression era, is that I used to get within the day by just trying any form of art. It wasn't painting, but I used to play like a violin, and it used to get me back to my rhythm and etc. So I'm just very grateful to just our speakers and Bravin. I apologize for that. But the show must still go on. So right now, I still asked if anyone has a question for our speakers. We can start, dropping them, in the chat as well. And yeah, does anyone have any question? You can also raise your hand and ask the question as well. I mean, it's an all open space right now for asking questions, but we're just going to go with also our guided question that we had. So maybe this I can ask Tex. I don't know if you're comfortable, but for you, what does healing look like in the context of people and the planet? Because I know you're also doing something around climate and mental health. So what does healing look like in the context for both people and the planet?
Healing.
Hello? Who's okay, sorry.
Okay.
I think that, can you repeat the question again? Sorry, I kind of cut off as you was saying it.
Okay, no problem. So the question is for you, what does healing look like in the context of both people and the planet? So what does healing mean for you for people and the planet?
I think it's about being connected. That's one of the most important things I can say. And I guess I would use a Buddhist kind of approach on this, which is probably not usually a popular thing when it comes to kind of the African communities and certain people. But within Buddhism, they have this thing where they say your internal self is how you're connected to the external world and your energy as well. So I think when it comes to healing, it starts internally of utilizing I don't know if y'all understand this reference or analogy about it's anime. If you guys watch anime, there's this famous anime called Naruto where they talk about your inner chakra. When you're able to heal your inner traumas, address those things, and there's this thing also called ACEs, and understanding those things, those are the ways I feel like you start your healing journey, and being connected with the earth as well. Because we all have a similarity as human beings, but the one thing that sets us apart is how we feel on a daily basis. So I think by understanding our inner self, it's going to allow you to be more connected to the external surroundings that you have around you. So I hope that made sense with the analogies that I used. For anybody who has any questions on those, just let me know. I can elaborate further.
Yes, thank you so much, Tex. And I've gotten the perspective, and I hope everyone else has. Maybe another thing that I can ask, maybe or another speaker is our sustainable musician, Jesse, is what role does collective care play in sustaining climate movements? In your own perspective, what role does collective care play in sustaining climate movements?
Yeah, I think from the statement that all of us have a role to play, all of us, we are connected in one way or another, and the role that we are playing goes a long way into making things happen, into driving impact, and that is why when we're talking about community, being part of a community, it means they can hold you accountable. They will know that Tamara is good at this, and this, and so her level of impact in the movement will be from this level to this level. But when you bring all our creativity together, our interests together, we can get to drive impact. So I think collective, everyone has a role to play. I think that is my take, and it's there is no small action that you can take. Everything is impactful in what you do, and it's a call to everyone to take action. That whatever you're doing really goes a long way into sustaining the climate movement.
Thank you so much, Jesse. So I'm gonna ask Claire. I don't know if you're still here, but I'm just gonna ask amazing representative. And also my question is, what approaches Oh, okay. My question is, what are the biggest barriers to integrate mental health into climate initiatives? Just in your own perspective and anyone, but what are the biggest barriers have you noticed or seen to integrating mental health into climate initiatives? Claire?
Uh, uh, Barriers in initiating the climate. It's a barrier is lack of awareness, the low awareness rate that climate change has an impact on mental health. Another barrier is stigma. Stigma prevents people from experiencing emotional distress. Then a barrier I can think of maybe the funding gaps, as most maybe the climate programs may prioritize the physical interventions or the psychological support. The physical interventions are planting trees, water infrastructure, maybe the boreholes are being constructed, the psychological support, which are not really prioritized. We have the counseling services, peer support groups, and mental education. Then the last that I can think of is the lack of integration between, let's say, the sectors like health and environment. The integration is not the connectedness. I think those are the barriers I can think of.
Okay. Thank you so much, Claire. And it's truly true. This is the biggest barrier, especially trying to integrate mental health and climate initiatives. I mean, from my own perspective, I've had a conversation with different of people, just trying to get the perspective on how how does it come together? How does it make sense when you're trying to raise awareness of these two biggest issues? Because mental health is such a big issue. It's a silent global crisis. I think we people are very afraid to speak about mental health, and it continues to be a global crisis that is happening, and we can even see from funding and everything. I mean, 2% of like global funding. 2%, that's such a small amount, goes to mental health. And now just imagine bringing the conversation of mental health and climate. It has been a difficult journey, even for us at BUL and Green Network, but we're still pushing on how to just raise awareness. But we're seeing these open opportunities as well. We're seeing the climate sector, they're opening around like the NDCs about just raising awareness on the intersection of climate and mental health. I know during like COP32 that's happening in Ethiopia, they're trying to put a more emphasis on like mental health and climate change, and there's a lot of many group of people who are working on that and to raise awareness of that. And that's something that I've been spotlighting and seeing, and I'm just grateful that we're seeing more people taking steps. But we hope that as life continue, as years continue, that we allow mental health to be something funded. It's sometimes people say it's very intangible, they can't measure impact and etc, but we making us looking in a lens of mental health should be something that is fundable. I think I don't wanna take time because we are supposed to be ending. I mean, like maybe 20 minutes from now, but also it would be great if we ended early as well. But we have the segment of question and answers. Does anyone have any questions for our speakers? This is the time to shine, time to ask our speakers the most toughest question that you can create. Yeah, so this is the time we can ask our speakers questions that we need to know. You can also like raise your hand, talk, or you can also send in the inbox. You can also send me private, like, and also ask the question. Yeah, so I'm just gonna give us time to like ask questions, because this is a time for us to ask questions. So does anyone have a question for speakers? Does anyone? Because I have asked my questions. So I'm just wondering if anyone has any question. This is the time. This is the time we get to hear your voice as well. And to get, yes. So does anyone? I mean, I'm gonna take like a 30-second thing. If I don't see any message or anything, I'm now gonna assume we don't have any questions as well. So yeah, and yeah, so I don't know if anyone has a question. So I wanna take, and be counting from 1 to 5. So 1, 2, 3. So there's no question. Okay, so if we don't have any question, I think now we are ending. We are now ending. So I don't know yet. So we are in our last minute thing. Madam Lucy saying, thank you so much. And we're so grateful for our amazing speakers. We at Be Well and Green Network are very thankful for having you guys being part of this amazing segment, this amazing webinar. It really means a lot to us that we've had your voices, we have contributed to this amazing discussion, and we'll continue with our agenda for raising awareness on healing minds and healing earth. So if you want to join our campaign, you can email us at info@bewellandgreennetwork.org. Our emails are always open to everyone, even on our Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. And you are your founders. We are open to have conversations on how to contribute to the campaign. I mean, this is how we got an amazing team of partners for our webinar, and we're truly thankful to our speakers, our 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 partners as well for representing the speakers. And truly we're very thankful for we got funded for various of activities that we're going to be doing, and even this webinar as well is supported by them. So we're also grateful for being supported by Umi Fund as well. We're very grateful that they saw the opportunity in funding the project, that we know that we need to connect our mental well-being with our well-being as well. So just planet and people is such an amazing thing, and we're very grateful to them for their amazing support and continuing this amazing journey. So if you want to put ways to participate, following after this webinar, we'll be sharing various of information on our social media pages, most like on Instagram and on Facebook, but we're trying to do more on LinkedIn as well. And how you can participate. We're having a social media campaign coming up. We are having a physical event, so we can't wait to have you. And also, I'm also going to share, and I hope everyone would like to attend Voice of Change, who they're organizing the event in May 23rd. I hope people have copied the link. But if you haven't, you can still email us, and we also send like an email about everything that we have talked today, and also the link to like the Zoomers, our YouTube link as well, and you can just go back and see what we were talking and everything. So right now, I want just to appreciate everyone, and my final message is that resilient people build resilient community and an amazing sustainable planet. So thank you so much for everyone who joined today. I'm seeing Madam Lisa said thank you. This was such an amazing session. Definitely, this was such an amazing session, and I've really taken a lot, and I can't wait to even implement it at Be Well and Green Network. Thank you for here, who says thank you everyone for this great session. So if you have any question, you can email us at info@bewellandgreenarrow.org. I mean, it's on the screen. You can just copy it, write it down. You can always ask us any question. We're open in collaboration, in partnership, in webinars, and etc. Anything. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. And I wish everyone, wherever they are, have a lovely afternoon, morning, everything, having an amazing day, having an amazing Saturday, Monday, whatever it is. Just thank you for just joining us. And like, I'm very happy, and I'm also gonna cry, but I'm not gonna cry right now. But just thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and can't wait to see you next time, and keeping you updated on our social media on everything that we're doing for our campaign. So thank you, and bye bye, everyone. You can just turn on your camera and say bye bye, or turn your voice and say bye bye, as we end this session full of love and grace and being thankful to God. Yes.
Bye.
Yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
all.
Bye bye. Sing kisses.
Bye bye,
Bye
everyone.
bye. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Really means a lot.
everyone.
Bye bye, everyone. Thank you for coming. And I can't wait for you guys to see the amazing work we are doing on. Yes. So bye bye. Have an amazing day, Saturday, Friday, Sunday. Yes. Bye bye.